Do you feel like you need more resources to be able to find natural health options? Well, stay tuned because we have a special guest with lots of great information coming up next.
Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Dr. Michael Longyear, and this is my lovely wife, Dr. Meaghan Longyear. We practice down in Jacksonville, Florida at the Brain Optimization Institute, and we do a lot of work with I call it interesting cases, mostly neurologically based care with depression, anxiety, as well as traumatic brain injury, concussion, all sorts of things, stroke, seizures, all sorts of different things. And we use a natural healthcare approach to do that. And so I'm excited by this next guest. We've had some really great conversations. We've known her for a while now, and I don't know how else to introduce her other than say she's kind of everything natural health. If you've ever gone to the website Health Nut News, she's the developer of that, and she has and is a great resource for all things natural health, from skincare lines to CBD supplements to fitness. I was playing around on the website today, and some of the recipes that were on there, I was like, wow, just with
Yeah,
natural foods and things like that, I'm going to
getting
get
after
fat on
that.
some of the treats that are just down there. So I'm interested to see where this conversation is going to go with. Welcome Erin Elizabeth to the stage. Welcome.
Hi,
Hi,
Erin.
Docs. How you doing? It's good to see you. I'm
It's
so
good to see
Yay.
you too.
thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely excited
So
to have you on.
I'm
Yeah.
interested to see where this conversation is going to go because we've had some fun conversations, and we could go anywhere from conspiracy theories to just natural health to all of those things, right? And I think kind of where we should start is telling everybody a little bit about who you are and where you're at, because you've been through a lot since 2020, 2019, 2020. So kind of catch everybody up to some of that stuff as much as you're comfortable sharing.
Sure. Yes, I can do that. And I will say that you two have been so helpful with helping me through that since yeah, I'm very open about being a patient of yours, having had a traumatic brain injury. So and learning so much from both of you and to m- move forward and to heal, continue to heal my body. So and heal my brain. So yes. So I started the site in 2013, so it's been about a dozen years ago. And I mean, I I know I'm very open, kind of wear my heart on my sleeve. That I was just it grew so quickly, in part because I did this unintended series on some of our own friends who were holistic doctors who died suddenly. But it was just and usually it was. I know this is a little right off the bat. I'm talking about very
No, I figured we'd get there, so let's go.
yes, so but they just so and I think that's why I just went from, just writing about, like, the antioxidants and blueberries and just, just a very small site and, not I had my people who follow me from when I used to do raw foods, retreats for years on the East Coast here of Florida, in person. I mean, had a raw food retreat center for years. And so some people knew me from there, but then I talk about raw foods, I had those people, but then we had these friends of ours, who were, it was dying young and kind of mysterious death. So I wrote about that. And I had, I really didn't even want to do it, but a couple friends just kind of encouraged me to keep going. And that became this unintended series. They did a few TV shows about it, Discovery Channel and whatnot. And that then I just went from a small, faithful following of, I don't know, a couple, 20,000 people. And then it just went to, like hundreds of thousands, millions. So that was kind of wild to see. And also then there's also that Catholic guilt in me because, oh my gosh, it's about such, a sad subject matter, that why these people are following me too. I think I owed that to the doctors because they no longer had their voices to report on them. So I did that. And there was a lot of controversy. And also I'm kind of a workaholic. So I'm very, I'll admit that. So I did really long hours, which probably wasn't great for my brain even before I bumped my head and knocked myself out. But I kept going. And then in 2020, as we all know, kind of the world changed for so many of us. And I guess at that point, the president then at the time that there was a group that were currently suing. I have two lawsuits, one with Bobby Kennedy, and that is against Legacy Media, because they pretty much pressured social platforms to ban us. They literally wrote and said, these accounts are up. We're going to write you back at the end of the day. And I'm not a litigious person, but for these household name, the five, probably the biggest that we're suing, including Associated Press, Reuters, they would say, we have the emails where they'd say, hey, you still have these accounts up, and they're part of the so-called disinformation dozen that they named with Bobby Kennedy, Dr. Mercola, me, and 9 others. And so we that then it just exploded. We're at the point where the president even said on television, they called the 12 of us killers. And so we're not killers, but they decided then, because of the pressure, to ban us. So I was banned in the same day on Facebook with several million followers. At that point, it amassed from 2013 when I started to the beginning of 2021 when they took us down. Within an hour of each other, we were taken down. I was taken down the same day as RFK, and some of the 12. Some made it through or were just censored or lost some of their pages, but for some reason they took all of mine. So I lost Facebook, Instagram, and then YouTube on my birthday, not until the fall, in September. So YouTube on the same day again, like YouTube was a little bit behind, and then they banned RFK, me, Dr. Mercola, and another doctor in the group, all on the same day. And then you just kind of the wind, like your wind knocked out of your sails. And then Twitter right around that time as well. And so thus far, the only one I am revived on was Musk. Elon Musk did put my account back up after he purchased Twitter in 2022, but I wasn't put back up until 2023. But the rest I lost. I lost that. And my mother's sister worked for me. She's just a little older than me because my mom has 8 brothers, and there's eight of them. So mom's the oldest, her sister's the youngest. So my aunt worked for me, and letting her go was very difficult because of course, lifelong, we never had any arguments, issues, but I know she understood. But in some ways, it's just, it's very difficult when it's a family member you're so close to and love and like-minded, because when we lose all of that, all of those the social media at once, it was just, it was overwhelming.
That's crazy. I want to highlight that to catch people up to that. That was one of the things that during COVID, there was a lot of things going on, right? There was a lot of people who were sick and dying and that. And I think lost in the shuffle of that was this whole censorship that occurred on social media and in a lot of other ways. And I know a lot of people knew about it, but it was, it was kind of a running joke even before that. We lost a mentor and a friend of ours, Dr. John D'Onofrio, who he always said, he's like, don't cure cancer. He goes, and if you do, don't tell anyone, because you're going to disappear. You can go back to, Royal Rife with the Rife machine. For those that know that, he had all of these frequencies, and he was treating and not curing. Like, he would never say he cured anything, but he was helping a lot of people with some really serious diseases. And then all of a sudden, his lab caught on fire, and all of his research and everything burned up with it, as well as all of his machines. And then he was not here anymore. So you hear a lot of that with doctors who are on the leading edge or the cutting edge, is to be quiet. And the other thing with that censorship that happened around COVID, anybody who was saying anything other than get vaccinated was pretty shut down. And I know your site, because again, just taking that natural healthcare approach of, these are the foods you can eat to drive your antioxidants up. These are the things that you can do from an exercise perspective to make your body healthier.
Yes.
Those things were getting shut down and labeled as misinformation, which was bizarre to me when it happened. But, and that's,
even those who didn't mention vaccines could get shut down. Even those who didn't mention anything about vaccines, who may very, like I do, but I know COVID exists and all that, and it's very real, but even some who didn't mention it. Sorry to interrupt, Doc. Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's just it. Like, even now they're starting to uncover a lot of the issues with the vaccines, and it's even still kind of being swept under the rug and quiet. If you don't know where or how to go look for that, you're not seeing all the heart issues that have come as a result of the COVID vaccines getting pushed through so quickly, and the cardiac events. We talk to a lot of doctors, our office, we can throw a rock and hit Mayo. So we interact with a lot of healthcare professionals at a lot of different hospitals around here in Jackson. the stuff we hear from them has been kind of crazy in that vein. And just to have people shut down and not be able to share their opinions, especially on natural health, that's the thing that was lost in all of this, is that now, everybody's kind of on an island to find natural healthcare ways to do this and to do that. I mean, RFK is starting to bring some of that back, but it's just few and far between, for sure.
Yeah, it really is. And even with Mayo, because I'm a patient there and I'm fortunate enough to get to talk to some of those doctors. And I even told them about your place in a meeting we had. And so with there are several doctors there at the meeting, a couple of whom had Ehlers-Danlos. As I do. And when I told them about your place, they weren't familiar. They weren't even familiar with the gyrostim, but they're interested, So even those conventional doctors are open to more integrative integrative practices or integrative medicine. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. But you're right. And I didn't realize until yesterday, I talked to someone actually who was at Mayo, and I never knew until yesterday, they did grant some religious exemptions for medical professionals who asked for religious exemptions for the shots. I thought that it was mandatory, but they did grant some. So
That's cool. I didn't know that.
it's good to know they did grant some on there. But yes, and definitely, as you had mentioned earlier before we went live, it is true that with my site, then after 2020, because I didn't have the platforms to share the articles on, I definitely stopped writing as many articles. And also,
Sure.
I realized that I really prefer the format of doing either this, or I do a lot of audio interviews, like a Twitter space is what they call it. And we'll interview, I was telling you, I interviewed 5 medical doctors at once, which wasn't easy. And just me and the 5, and they all weighed in. They were really great. But that was on the subject of COVID and vaccines and all different kinds of stuff. But what I'll do, I do now, is seeking to put more of those interviews, or interviews I do with RFK, that I've done interviewing him, that I put those on to Substack. I don't know if we mentioned Substack yet since we went live, but I think Substack has been a nice alternative because they don't censor. It's free. And I even if somebody doesn't follow me, I just highly recommend in general that people get on Substack, because you don't have all the fighting that you'll see on Twitter, definitely, or even Facebook or Instagram. And it's just, yeah, you know how that gets. And I myself have gotten caught up in those before, especially since a TBI, probably, whereas before I could ignore it. But and Twitter's more, you're engaging more with the followers, whereas on Facebook or Instagram, you just or YouTube, you may post your video, and I maybe had somebody try to moderate the comments and look at them. But Twitter is much more interactive somehow, so it's easier. You'll see, like, it feels like there are and it's just the place where, or I guess it's X now, sorry, but where people will discuss things. But I love that with Substack, that it's really people being polite and kind to one another. Politics doesn't. I mean, you just have there's just really interesting intellectual scientific discussions between doctors and great minds like yourself. I think you'll find there that, yeah. So I like Substack, and that's really been a place that's been a nice alternative in all this, that I'm just starting to get really use more. And now that they're starting to do more video format too, whereas before it was more long form articles. So, but yeah, I stopped writing, and I had a writer I had to let go too, and an editor. Although so one of my writers did a lot of the editing. But yeah, after 2021, we didn't have. They took away my voice to be able to post those articles on all of the platforms, where we would have an average of 9,000 weekly new followers every week, 9,000 more, 9,000 plus. I think that's as much as it could show. So really it could have been 12,000 or 15,000, but like it would say 9,000 plus. I think that's all the digits it allowed to go up to. So I was realizing the other day, it was more than 9,000 new people joining every week on these pages. And so, sometimes I wonder if things happen for a reason, like maybe it was a sign for me to slow down, but really, as we were just discussing with our little group, my tiny team, it almost forced us to work harder, because we're so silenced that we only, it only made us work harder and harder. It didn't really make us slow down. So, yeah, it's tough being censored, but I do enjoy just talking about not such controversial things, like, maybe young doctors dying, or, and just talking about the science. And I also love just what I used to do, and I think what's important, and anybody can do this, and I highly recommend it. If somebody's wanting to make videos because they want to improve their own health, they can share those videos. They can make videos about improving their health with others because it helps hold them accountable. So that's really what I need to do. Say, look, I'm going to the gym and here I am because I need to, I need to build muscle. At my age, I need to build more muscle and da da da, and talk about insulin resistance and things like that. I mean, that's probably more important and healthier for me to be talking about than some of the more super controversial stuff, because I think for journalists, or especially for journalists, they say the same about people who do animal rescue, that they do it full time. It can be a kind of, when you're writing about that sad stuff all the time, it can be somewhat depressing, when you're writing about it.
Absolutely. It's
And
all consuming.
yeah, and
Mhm.
you have so many people. I think especially before I was censored, there'd be such kind comments, thousands of comments, but I would concentrate on the negative ones. So I think I seek now my person who's been with me 20 something years, she'll actually send me just a kind email that we get where, like, they say, thank you, da, 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 to try to remind me to look at the positive. Don't just concentrate on the negative, the hate mail we get, but, because for every one of those, there's, 10, for every hate mail, there's 10 positive ones. So yeah, you have to remember
Well,
that.
and we need your voice out there, right? So we
Yeah.
need that natural health aspect, because there is a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. If you go on, social media and Instagram and all of that, there's a million different things. I always say the diet space is a really busy space, right? If you want to do carnivore, you can find a whole bunch of people to support carnivore. If you want to do vegan, you can find a whole bunch of people that have the science to promote vegan. Like, there's
Yes.
a really busy space. So you guys just taught me about Substack before we went live, and I've never been on it, never heard of it. So I'm interested to kind of check that side of it out and see, because that sounds like an interesting alternative to, yeah, the Facebook posts and all of that. Talking on that, there was just something, it was about TikTok more specifically, but it was talking about how more and more people are turning to TikTok and social media for health advice, and how detrimental that has been. So they
Mhm.
just did a research, they just finished a research study on the detrimental effects of people researching ADHD on TikTok. And they said that it's negative it basically has made a whole bunch of people believe they have ADHD, start to identify with that, and then have created a mental health condition as a result of going to get their health information on TikTok. So that's
That's
why that's why I was excited to chat with you and find out where we could get your information, because you got to be careful where you're sourcing your health information
yes.
and who it's coming from, right? Because
Yes.
now it's giving people mental health disorders, just the fact that social media has all this stuff out there. So
Mhm.
it's something we've really got to be careful and watch out.
Well, that's a great point you make. So the day that our lawsuit came out with the disinformation dozen, with our suit against, basically the main, a lot of different entities, but Twitter, or X, even though not all of us were banned there, but Meta, whatever you pronounce it, Facebook, Instagram, and all that. TikTok was not included, but hours after that went live, a few of us got banned on TikTok. So I had an account since 2019, many videos with millions of views, many millions of views each, and they banned me on TikTok. So I created a new account, but they've already banned that one. So it's really crazy that I'm thinking, gosh, who's out there like at TikTok even caring about that? That I started a new account, started building my following back, and didn't even announce it, but was enough of the old TikTok followers just kind of saw me starting to make videos and followed me again. And yeah, they banned me again. But I will, in regard to what you said, that I follow patterns, and especially right after the TBI. And I've talked to other people who've had brain injuries. A friend of mine she had encephalitis, and so I mean, she had serious encephalitis. She had listeria, and so she had encephalitis
Okay.
and she had spinal meningitis at the same time. And she's a doctor, so she's a good friend of mine. And so afterwards, she said she'd stare, and either she stared at the TV, but I would stare and scroll. I mean, I would doom scroll. So it's
Mhm.
interesting you say that, because I don't talk about ADHD or anything, but there are, and uh, let me think of the right word. Just I'm not sure. Just a disproportionate amount of videos on TikTok about that you probably have ADHD and what you need to do about it. And I saw that every day. And I thought, are they just targeting, is that just targeting me? But I don't think so, because other people have had the same experience. So
Mhm.
especially after that TBI, and even if I look at TikTok now, if I have to make up another account, they have, I don't know why that is, but they're specifically making videos and showing those videos, and we don't know why they're doing that, but they are really, really, especially with young people that are on there, maybe in their 20s or even teens, and basically kind of telling them you may have ADHD. Why do you think that? Why do either of you great minds, what do you docs, why do you think they're doing that?
Well, to be honest with you, it's a lot easier if people think they're sick, right? It's a lot easier to control them. So, I
Uh,
mean, just our media consumption at this point, TikTok is perfect for ADHD. I mean,
yeah,
the videos are like 30 seconds long. I've never actually been on TikTok, but I
okay,
mean, all of your social media platforms are sound bites, right? They don't drive long-term attention. So,
yeah,
I might argue that ADHD isn't necessarily a condition as much as it is something we're creating with the way that our world works.
Mhm.
We have all these multiple streams of information, and I think everybody has a touch of the ADHD, if you want to say it that way, because of the way that we consume information. And your brain gets really good at what you tell it to do. And if you tell it to jump from one thing to the next and doom scroll, it's going to get really good at that. But when
yes,
you get really good at that, you're going to get really bad at focus and attention. So
Mhm.
it ends up putting your frontal lobe in danger, and you route blood and resources to all sorts of deeper structures. And yeah, we can go down the rabbit hole neurologically with what all that means too. But
just a few hours ago, I was having a conversation with a friend, and we're talking about ADHD, and I said, a mutual friend of ours was recently diagnosed in her 50s with ADHD, and we both didn't think she really had it. But what we said, maybe that's the new thing, to be diagnosing people with it. But also, she said, but don't we all kind of have it a little bit? Just kind of like you said, a touch of, and she's not, a neurologist, but that was just her. That was just her thoughts. But that's very interesting. I know, yeah, that maybe that's what they're, yeah, that it's, oh, so let me ask you this. If that, besides stopping doom scrolling, what can people do? Is it better than to focus on reading long articles or books, as for somebody who maybe, I mean, definitely I know they tried to put me on Ritalin as a child and said I was hyperactive. My mom did say no, but so, I mean, I would imagine I have, probably do. And most people who know me say, yeah, you're, a little bit scattered all over. And my birth mom is just like me, but she's a PhD, but we're both kind of scattered and alike in our personalities. But yeah, what, besides stopping doom scrolling, what can help someone so they don't develop those habits or patterns? What would you say? Either one of you.
I would kind of throw it to her, right? I mean, to be honest, the best thing for training your frontal lobe for attention and function is being present in the moment that you're in, right? Putting the phone down for a few minutes. I mean, it's ironic that we ended up
Yeah.
talking about this. I literally just smashed my iPhone at the gym. I dropped a weight on it and destroyed
Oh,
it. So
oh, I thought maybe on
No
purpose.
phone
Okay.
for him.
maybe on purpose, but I don't
Oh,
have a phone for a couple days because I got to wait for the insurance to go through and
yes. Oh,
send a new one. So,
never fun. Yes,
um,
you do.
but
Yeah.
so I don't get to do that part of it, right? But so being present in the moment. I mean, even just today, it's made me focus on just kind of sitting around and looking around and seeing what's going on. That's a way to train your frontal lobe. Reading and doing all of that are great ways to do it, but I think mindfulness is
My,
one of the big ones.
And I'm always going to come back to the emotional piece, because as you talk about the frontal lobe, and I'm going to talk about the limbic brain, which holds all those, emotions and all of our keeping us protected, right? All the
yeah.
stuff you're talking about, you mentioned about, as your platforms are getting taken down, and all of the, the intensity that comes with all of that, and, banning and
Yeah.
censoring and all of that, that I think most people, regardless of where you are in, your views, people understand, because a lot of people were getting, censorship emails, and like, what did I say? Like, I didn't even think I said
Yeah.
anything triggering. I don't,
Yes.
I didn't post hardly at all. And I get them, and I'm like, but I didn't say anything. I just
Yeah.
shared a picture of my dog. And next
Yeah.
thing I
I
know, it's like
know.
censored. Like, what did I do? But I
Yeah.
The
think
book got taken off
yes, his
Amazon.
book actually got taken off Amazon, and they never would explain why.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
I've
on
never.
Amazon for like a year, and they wouldn't tell me why they wouldn't allow it on. We
They
had to
said
Wow.
we
go to
broke a rule.
fight them and all that stuff.
Yep, and then it
Oh my
finally
gosh. I've
after
never even heard of that. And I thought I'd heard it all. Wow. I've
yeah,
never known.
we didn't understand, and then in June in January, it was put back up, and we were never given an explanation as to why. So, still, but a lot of that stuff, though, I feel like, and what I saw over the years of people, whether their things were getting banned or they were, being censored or whatnot, was just how much of, we know with the news and everything, like getting that fear, triggering people with that fear.
Yeah.
And the more that people are in that place of, being afraid, being scared, we're looking to identify with other people. So, the whole like, watching and scrolling and all these people have this diagnosis. And we're seeing, a lot of the children coming in and saying, well, I have this and I'm like that. And not
Yes.
saying that we didn't go through that when we were in our ages too, right? It's that
Yeah.
time of our life that we're trying to, connect and find ourselves and all of that. But knowing what we know with the brain and knowing what we know about that area of the brain that, holds all of those memories and keeps us, in that more, fight or flight space,
Yes.
we're not doing enough work to help relieve that and to release and work through that stuff. So it keeps us more in those unhealthy patterns. Because what I see a lot in the office is people looking for things like what you have, like the platforms. I'm seeing a lot of people turning against, I don't want to do the chemotherapy and the radiation for my
Yes.
cancer because I don't feel supported by my doctor, or my medical doctor has completely, said, I'm not seeing the results, and I can't give you opportunity or options of things to do. So they feel almost abandoned
Yeah.
because the medical doctors are out there trying to figure this stuff out too and just
Yeah.
not knowing where to go.
Yeah.
So people are looking for other routes. They're looking to connect with others. And, in my opinion, trying to, stay positive with, the world crumbling all around
Here
us
comes
is
the sunshine and rainbows.
sorry, I gotta
Sunshine and rainbows are
Yeah. You got to
gotta
have
be good. That I see patients that are doing things that all of this stuff that has been a purpose for them. Patients that have gone through cancer and had to connect with, different resources that maybe their platforms were shut down and they weren't able to readily access the information just like yours were, but they're connecting in different ways. Like we always find a way, and
yeah.
there's always some other way that we can do something. And seeing them now being empowered that, I found all these different ways. I have one patient specific that any patient that comes in with a cancer diagnosis, I'm connecting with her. Well, now she's going on to, get certified in coaching and stuff because she's been such a mentor to people. And so through all of this that she's done, now she's found purpose in her life. Things
Yes.
that, weren't as accessible, she had to go and dig around and find, but now she wants to go share that with others. And that's
Oh,
where I kind of feel like what you have and what you're sharing is so, don't quit doing what you're doing and trying to connect and spread the word, because just because one thing comes down, the sunshine and rainbows is always going to find its way out. The positive is always going to find its way. And that's where we can all connect together in that community, in that, share those resources so that we can rise above
yes. Yeah.
people that maybe just, aren't in the agreement with the things. Like we're
Right.
all entitled to different opinions, but I
Yes.
don't think for a second that, the stuff that happens, there's always sunshine on the horizon. There's always a way to try to find a way to connect and continue to help people heal and get the information that they need so that they can achieve the things that they're trying so hard to do.
Yes. Oh, that's so true. No, beautifully stated. And I think regardless of anybody's politics or background or whatever, everybody wants to, they're seeking to be healthy and
Yeah.
looking at for answers, especially I think everyone agrees with our healthcare system the way it is in this country. It can be
Yeah.
difficult, or they're not heard, or even if their
Mhm.
doctor does care, the doctor's time is limited. With their
Yep.
primary care or whatever they're doing. So yeah, that's so true. And they're looking for alternatives, and that's what we've provided all these years. And yeah, I know I need to get back to writing more long form articles, which I did for years, and sometimes I keep them somewhat short. But I think also people, and that's what's cool about Substack. But also then people will also enjoy that they're moving more towards videos too, but not 30 seconds. It's a little bit usually longer on there, where you're doing a little bit longer form interview, like
Yeah.
maybe or a round table or something like that, kind of a little old school, but with new technology. So yeah, it's
I
cool.
love
That's
it.
cool.
We find new ways, right? Find new ways to connect and use the information. I mean, for you to start out small and then become big because you have this information to share and people need to hear that information. More and more people, like I know people that we've been getting in that, aren't the holistic-y, like, I mean, my mom's an oncology nurse, so I grew up very much on that side of things. Like this
Oh,
stuff was all weird as heck when I first started learning. I'm like, what do you
It's
mean?
still weird.
It
It's
is still
weird.
weird, but it's like we talk about, it shouldn't be the alternative care because this is what people are looking for.
yes.
And that's not even just average people out there. I mean, we've seen plenty of medical doctors that are like abandoning ship. They're not doing the old way anymore.
Yes.
They see that there's other ways. They want to learn the things that we do, like in neuroemotional technique. I loved seeing so many medical doctors being coming in and stuff, patients or doctors that are wanting to learn the allergy elimination technique because they realize their own health, their family's health, it's not getting fixed with the way things are now.
Yeah.
Popping a pill and hoping, you've got to have the information. And so we need people like, what you've put out there to keep finding ways to put it out and for all of us to connect people together so that we can take more interest in our own health and doing things that, we have to be responsible for helping ourselves and connecting so that we can, have a wider array of people, to help in, like you've talked about the diet space and all that stuff being such a big area.
Yes. Oh, yeah. People can argue about that more than politics, whether it's raw food, or like a raw food vegan versus carnivore. You'll still see, and I would get into the middle of those. And I've tried all different kinds of diets over the years. And something you reminded me of too, really quickly. I love when doctors, like conventional, I should say, conventional doctors, are
Mhm.
more open-minded to doing holistic things because that can be very difficult. But my own veterinarian, who's since retired but had practiced many years, had seen both my cats, including I don't think her pictures anywhere in the behind me, but I had a purebred rescue. She was a rescue, born very sickly with Tritrichomonas foetus, and they said she's going to die. And of course, I take on all these difficult animals like my Bengal cat. I don't know how I end up with these, but the shelter sometimes contacts me, like with him, and said, "Could you help with this special need case?" So she kept saying, he needs these vaccines. Da, 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 da. She needs the with the Persian. It used to be my parents. I had her like so many years. It was started as their cat. And then it became my cat. And anyway, she lived 20 plus years, which is rare for a very born sickly Persian. And my vet did change her practice. She brought in she learned acupuncture, and then she also brought in like a K laser and some laser for them. And actually, her pamphlet said, an animal, your pet. Oh, she's only a cat. She was only a cat place, a cat care clinic, and she said, but the best in the area here in Florida. And she said, your cat may not need as many vaccinations as you may have previously thought, and we can discuss that, because she realized that I was saying no to anything except I thought I had to have rabies when I would travel with her, which really you didn't. But besides a little bit of rabies, and then we just do a titer test. And you can do Vaxi check or titer test for any of your dog or your cat. And so I love when doctors like that. She changed her whole practice for years before she retired, because she said, your cats are outliving mine. This is not, and so I probably come in there a little bit, flighty or all over the place, and bring both my cats and another cat I've rescued and have 3 cats with me. But she's like, wait a minute, these cats just keep living. And then she said at 14, the Persian would probably be, like winding down the end of her life. And then 6 years later, she's still going. So I think I love it when doctors or veterinarians, whatever, type of practice they have, when they're open to that, because having an open mind, which I think is great for people in general,
Absolutely.
really helps them. And even my mom has been super conventional. I was raised with very conventional medicine, but she's coming around to the holistic side, which is nice.
A lot of people
Well,
are.
and I think a lot of doctors do, right?
Mhm.
A lot of I have colleagues that trash medical doctors, and a lot of holistic doctors will trash conventional medicine.
Yeah.
I don't think the problem is with the doctors. Doctors get into healthcare because they genuinely want to help people.
Yeah.
Their education system trains them to use chemistry for that, which we might argue is maybe not the best way,
Yeah.
because the medical schools are owned by the establishment, right? They're owned by big pharma.
Yep.
Healthcare is dictated now by insurance policy, right? That's
Yes.
why we spend the most money as a nation on healthcare by a lot in the world,
Mhm.
and we rank 36th. right, in the world in healthcare. So, but I don't think it's the doctor's fault. The doctor wants to do what they want to do, but they're dictated by whether or not they get paid by insurance companies based on how much time they spend and
Yeah.
what medication they prescribe. So,
True.
and that's, again, just to kind of wrap and bring it back full circle, I think that's why it's so important that your voice is out there and that you continue to do the things that you're doing. So for you, those of you guys, you can find her. Substack is going to be the best way. But if you want some killer recipes, and I know the website got shut down and it's just kind of getting back up and running.
It is, yes. Yeah.
But all the information, I mean, you've got a plethora of information on things like EMF sensitivities and all of that
I
on the
wrote a lot of
website.
Yeah,
A
there's a
ton
lot
of articles.
recipes and some guest pieces too by doctors or, health experts or chefs, but yeah, it's all up there at Health Nut News as well. Yes.
Yeah,
We'll
so
have all that.
we'll put a link to the Health Nut News, the www dot, and then the Substack link as well. So if you guys are looking for a resource, check her stuff out. It's great stuff and get you back up and running post, we'll just say post censorship is the
Yes,
easiest
that's
way
right.
to say it for right now.
Yes.
And thank you for being on. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us and provide a resource for everybody who's listening. And yeah, thank you guys for watching.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Erin.